during the show are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or ownership of WGCH Radio. It's Anything Goes with Kim Burns. So here's your host, Kim Burns.
Welcome to the show. It's Meredith Bach here because Kim Burns is running around Europe, and so we've got Bob Small on the board, and we have a very special co-host today. Randy Walker is up from New York City. Randy, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Meredith.
Randy and I have been friends for a long time, and he is a tennis aficionado, and because we're in the middle of Wimbledon, I thought, let's create Anything Goes Tennis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've got a great show lined up today. We've got Ann Worcester, who is a New Canaan resident and another old friend of mine. She's the tournament director of the Connecticut Open Tennis, which is a women's tennis tour event up in New Haven coming up. She's going to talk with us today in the second segment. And then we have Todd Martin. Tell us a little bit about Todd.
Todd, he's the CEO of the International Tennis Hall of Fame. He was one of the all-time great American players the last 20 years.
Big Davis Cup fan.
Huge Davis Cup hero. He always answered the call, helped the U.S. win the Davis Cup in 95.
Oh, wow.
He reached the U.S. Open final in 1999, the Australian Open in 1994, and he's going to talk a little tennis and what's going on in Newport, just a couple hours up the road.
Yeah, next week's a big week up in Newport at the Hall of Fame, so we'll talk with Todd a little bit about that. But I don't know if you've noticed, I'm a little sad today, Randy. Cause
I think not as sad as your sister Kim is, though.
I know. She could be. I talked to her earlier.
She might be on the
today.
ledge.
She might be on the ledge, but for our listeners who aren't following tennis but want to, but Roger Federer is out at the U.S. Open. He had match point on his racket in the third set at 5-4. He's playing against a big hitter, Kevin Anderson, 6'8", a guy, South African, but he went to University of Illinois, I think. It went 5 sets. In the final set, Roger lost 13-11. He broke him right at the end there. And what's the ruling in Wimbledon when you're, or is it just a major, or is it just Wimbledon where you have to play the fifth set?
Yeah, every Grand Slam tournament except the U.S. Open does not play a fifth set tiebreaker. I think the U.S. Open is superior in that they have the fifth set tiebreaker because that's the most exciting 4 minutes in tennis. Whereas if you go 13-11, you don't know if it's going to last 5 minutes or 90 minutes more.
Yeah, exactly. And John Isner, who is a Georgia Bulldog.
Go Dogs! Sick 'em!
Exactly. He's in the semis.
It's my alma mater.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you wouldn't guess that. He's in the semifinals, and he's one of those guys who I think just takes the matches all the way to the fifth set all the time, and he had that notorious
70-68 in the fifth set, which goes to the point of what we just made, that you really got to have a tiebreaker.
It's just incredible. And that lasted over 3 days in Wimbledon. What year was that?
That was 2010.
Oh, my God.
In the first round against Nicolas Mahut of France.
Oh.
So that got kind of crazy. I'm a big fan of the fifth set tiebreaker. Right there, decide it right there.
Yeah.
People don't have the attention spans that they used to.
Yeah.
You got kids pick up from soccer practice. You got a meeting. You got a coffee.
Right.
You got in England they got people that have tea time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's better to just end it if it's gone that far. Right?
I agree. Well, we've got a little housekeeping notes before we dig into some things. This weekend around town and around the world, we got a lot going on. The sidewalk sale is in Greenwich, so everyone get out and spend some money and check out the sales there. We've also got one in Darien and New Canaan this weekend. I think some of them start today or tomorrow, but if you're looking for a bargain, I would get out there. Check it out.
Greenwich starts today.
Greenwich starts today. Yeah. Okay. So
I will say that walking up Greenwich Avenue from the train station, there was more people at Vineyard Vines than there was in Grand Central Station.
Were they giving stuff away?
It was some great prices. I can't wait to go back there.
Yeah, good. And you ran into somebody on the way up the avenue.
And I got a shot of Rise Coffee. This is Rise Brewing Company that was started by 2 Greenwich guys who went to Brunswick High School, and I had a shot of their Nitro Cold Brew Coffee.
Did
so
you
that's
like
why
it?
I'm so excited morning.
That looks good. Well, check it out. We're gonna check that out. New Canaan also has theirs. I think that starts tomorrow. And then Rowayton has something called the River Ramble, which is a really fun event for kids, and it's a big fundraiser for the Rowayton Civic Association. And check that out all day on Saturday in Rowayton. And then around the world, we've got World Cup soccer. Bob, did you watch any of those matches yesterday?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Well, Croatia stunned England, I think is the right way to say it.
I'm looking for in these France celebration videos. I'm looking for Kim in the crowd there.
Yeah, Kim Burns is over in France, so maybe she is
She's
celebrating.
screaming, Allez les Bleus!
I love it. So those big games are on this weekend. Croatia against France. The final is July 15th at 11 a.m. Little conflict with Wimbledon finals. I won't be watching a whole lot this weekend now that Roger's out, so I've rescheduled. I'm actually going to probably play tennis on Sunday morning, so that might be my schedule.
Play tennis before 9 o'clock. Get an 8 o'clock reservation.
Okay.
Then when you're out of breath at 9 o'clock,
then I can go watch.
You can watch Wimbledon.
Breakfast at Wimbledon.
Yep. And then right after at 11 o'clock, I think the World Cup soccer
That's
is.
right.
So maybe you can miss a little bit of the first half.
I can DVR it too, probably. So tell me a little bit about Randy. Have you been to Wimbledon?
I have.
Yeah. What was your experience like?
It was amazing. I mean, it really is kind of like Disneyland for tennis.
It really is beautiful.
These amazing lawns, and everything is perfect, and you have the security guards, and everybody's dressed up, and it's a garden party.
It really is a garden party. It's such a beautiful space. Bob, I don't know if you've watched any of the tournament, but it's so green. Everything's so beautifully green, and people are very respectful of the space and the matches and so on. I was very fortunate to be able to go over, gosh, it must have been 10 years ago, and our friend of the show, Lindsay Davenport, was playing Venus Williams in the semis. There was a little bit of a rain delay, but we were fortunate enough to sit in her player box. My nephew had to put on a blue blazer, and we had a great time. And I'll never forget, when we got off the plane in London, Lindsay left us a message saying, I'm playing tomorrow with Lisa Raymond in doubles. And my nephew rolled his eyes, and he said, do we really have to go to tennis? But when he met Lindsay, he was like, can we go back? When can we go back? And we had a great time. I think we were out there 3 different days and watched a lot of great tennis.
The fans at Wimbledon really appreciate being there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily like you have to be at center court for Roger Federer's match.
Right.
You could be on court 22 watching a junior player or a mixed doubles match, and the crowd is packed and people are so excited to be there.
Yeah,
so
it's a great experience.
It's more than just the tennis. It's an event, and you have to relish every moment you're at Wimbledon.
One of the things that obviously you and I have been in the business for a while, in the sports business, so we've had the good fortune of getting tickets in a simpler way, but there was a great story in the New York Times this week about some gals and their mom trying to get tickets, and they did the queue and they did the overnight in the tent and that kind of thing. And those are real fans, if you ask me. They are all experiencing something that they are dedicated to. They're taking vacation time. They're understanding the rules. And it's a really fair way to go about it, I think. They're giving out a couple hundred a day. And I was happy to see these groups, this gal and her mom, were able to go and watch Roger play. So that was kind of a neat story.
The only thing I would really wait in line for is to go to the bathroom and to go to watch a match at Wimbledon. That's probably the only two things I would wait in line for.
I like that. I think that's very good. That's good. Well, one of the things that I am sort of being positive about is, even though Roger's out today, or as of yesterday, he did sign a 10-year contract with Uniqlo. So I feel like he's going to be around for a while.
Did that affect his playing?
No, I don't think it did. I'm looking at the stats, actually. Randy and I were talking a little bit about this before we came on the air. Looking at the Federer-Anderson match, it was very close. I think
he had match point.
He did have match point in the third set.
I did not think about losing when I had match point. I lost that point.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Obviously, Kevin Anderson had a lot more aces. Statistically, Roger's numbers look really good. I like to look at the points won. Roger had 195 to Kevin's 190.
There you go.
But that's, that says
kind of like
something.
The Electoral College.
Exactly. But you can still win in other ways. Roger had a lot of unforced errors. I felt like it was a pretty even match, but this guy was a big hitter. And here's a stat that I really find interesting. IBM does such a great job with their slam tracker. They have distance covered on the court. So Roger ran around 11,384 feet compared to Kevin Anderson's 10,451 feet. But let's go to the stats of the Del Potro-Nadal match, which was also a 5-setter.
Won by
Nadal in 5. Now, here's some interesting stats. Del Potro had 33 aces compared to Rafa's 3, which is very interesting. Del Po, big guy, huge hitter. He had a lot more unforced errors compared to Rafa, which makes sense. But the numbers here tell a very different story. Del Potro ran around 15,914 feet. That's another 5,000 feet more than Roger did. And Rafa, who is just the quickest guy on court, 16,500 feet. Again, 6,000 feet more than the other match. But the matches were almost the same length of time. So kind of interesting. I love how IBM does a lot of great stuff with all their information on the Wimbledon app. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Rafa loves to suffer.
Yeah.
It's kind of
very dramatic.
It's in the Spanish culture that they love to suffer. I published a book called The Secrets of Spanish Tennis, and the theme is that Spaniards love to suffer. They love to go out and grind.
And drama.
And they relish in that. So that's why you see Rafael Nadal win these amazing epic matches, is because he's been conditioned like that culturally through the Spanish system through the years to suffer. So Saturday morning, or Sunday morning when you're playing your match, you got to just have that mentality as I'm here to suffer.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll think about Rafa on that one. Who do you think is going to be in the finals?
Gosh, I think John Isner is going to be tough to beat.
Okay.
I think Kevin Anderson's going to have a little bit of a letdown.
Maybe he ran out of gas. That was a long match, not only physically but emotionally to win that. I think John is really peaking. I really love the positive words that he's saying. So I really think that he's going to be the Georgia Bulldog playing on center court at Wimbledon. That's exciting.
Quite an opposite environment than playing, at Henry Field Stadium in front of barking drunk, fans in Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
And Nadal and Djokovic is going to be interesting. Gosh,
I'm looking forward to that. I love semifinals because I feel like I'm watching two finals. I really do. The women's today, we don't know exactly what's been going on other than Kerber beating Ostapenko.
And I think Serena was winning handily, so we have to check our iPhones here.
What's your thinking about the rankings? They're talking about changing some things up for women that come back from maternity leave. Any thoughts on that, Randy?
Yeah, I think you have to obviously give women the opportunity to have a fair chance to return to their quote-unquote workplace.
Yeah.
And, the WTA does have protected rankings where the ranking that they had when they had an injury or a pregnancy would allow them to enter tournaments. And I think one thing also is that one of the new ranking systems that's coming out is the UTR, Universal Tennis Ranking, which Serena's UTR ranking was equivalent to, I think it was 25, which was what she was seeded at Wimbledon. So they closely went by her UTR, which is a little more specific in the immediate rankings of a player.
Are they keeping a 2-year spread of their rankings or match wins and that kind of thing? How does that work exactly?
Well, you will have a protected ranking of what you were ranked when you went off the tour due to injury, and they're also including maternity there as well. So, you're seeing a lot more women coming back,
which is
to
pretty
playing,
impressive.
which is fantastic. You have Serena, you have Vika Azarenka, you have a few other players, Tatiana Maria, and I think there were 6 mothers that were in the Wimbledon draw, which is really fantastic and really inspiring to mothers, whether you're a champion tennis player or not, to get back out there and get in the workforce, and it's very inspiring.
I love that. I love
Serena inspiring in yet another way, right?
Exactly. All right, before we go to break, I want to say hello to some of our listeners today. Dr. Jim Wood, the dental office in Norwalk. Hopefully you guys are listening today. Kim Como out in Cold Spring Harbor, Long Island, is tuned in. I think she is, as you mentioned.
She has a handkerchief.
Yeah, she is. But she's tuned in today. And then Cricket and her daughter Ellie Cush are driving out to East Hampton. They are listening as well. And then my golf pals Margaret, Gail, and Barbara are tuned in because even though they're golfers, they're excited to hear about all things tennis today because this is Anything Goes Tennis, isn't it? So we'll be back in a few minutes. We've got Ann Worcester who will be on the line. She is the tournament director of the Connecticut Open Tennis, women's tennis tour event up in New Haven. And we will be back. This is Anything Goes on 1490 WGCH.
From the WGCH Weather Center.
Sunny, pleasant weather today with a high around 80. Clear tonight, a low of 60 and sunny, warm, low 80s.